Hello, my name is Gordon Pierce. I'm with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment in the Air Pollution Control Division. What I'd like to do today is to provide you with an overview of a new regulation for air monitoring around oil and gas development that was recently implemented in Colorado. So slide 2 provides an overview of all the oil and gas development that has gone on in Colorado over quite a few decades now. This map shows all of the active and producing wells in Colorado as red dots. There's over 50,000 active wells at the moment. Over half of these are in northeast Colorado in the Denver-Julesburg Basin, just to the northeast of the Denver metropolitan area. So very near to major cities in Colorado. Also, this Denver metro northeast area of Colorado is an ozone non-attainment area. So that's also an issue. Slide 3 goes through some monitoring that we've done in Colorado recently related to oil and gas. The first is related to a 2015 Governor's Oil and Gas Task Force report that recommended a mobile lab be developed. Funding was provided for that, and as you can see in the upper right, a picture of the trailer that we built with a GCMS system, an FID system inside, and a typical oil and gas well in the background with a sound wall around it. The other thing that we've done a lot of are sensor deployments. We've been using the Sensed S-Pod with a total VOC PID sensor in it, associated with a trigger mechanism so whole air canisters or sorbent tube samples can be taken. Typically, these are for an hour, so the values can be compared to acute health guideline values. On slide 4, getting into the meat of the presentation and focusing in on our new Colorado Air Quality Control Commission's regulation number 7, which as a whole regulation was established back in the 1990s, but then this specific amendment to add air quality monitoring was implemented or adopted in September of 2020. So the goal of this amendment was to obtain more information regarding potential emissions from pre-production operations around oil and gas development. So that includes drilling, fracking, mill out, flowback, and early production. To determine potential impacts from this oil and gas development on human health, and to obtain more information on innovative monitoring techniques. So the specific text of this new portion of Regulation Number 7, Section 6C on air quality monitoring states that owners or operators of drilling operations that begin on or after May 1st, 2021 must monitor air quality at and or around the pre-production and early production operations. So there's 3 specific objectives listed in the regulation that operators must meet at least one of. And these objectives are to detect, evaluate, and reduce as necessary either hazardous air pollutant emissions, ozone precursor emissions, or methane emissions. Section 5 goes through an overview of some of the monitoring requirements. Pollutants and other parameters that to be monitored must include at least one of the following as far as the pollutants, either total VOCs, methane, benzene, VTEX, or other indicator of hydrocarbon emissions, and it must include meteorology. Owners and operators must submit an air quality monitoring plan at least 60 days prior to the beginning of air quality monitoring. The division has to approve that plan, and we also have to consult with local governments that are within 2,000 feet of the operation as part of that review process. Owners and operators must keep records for a minimum of 3 years as well, and make those records available to the division upon request. And they must submit monthly reports of the monitoring that they've conducted to the division. On slide 6, monitoring plans that have to be submitted for approval must include a description of the monitoring equipment, the number of monitors and sensors, where those monitors are located, a topographic map and plan of the site, an explanation of how the number and placement of the monitoring equipment will be adequate to achieve the desired air quality monitoring objective, the standard operating procedures and QA/QC procedures, and the data system and operating protocols that will be used. Slide 7 covers some of the records and reporting requirements. So this includes the monthly reports and the data necessary. they must include what phase of operation the monitoring covers, activity logs that from the drilling or whatever else is going on, and then they must keep all of the underlying raw data for a minimum of 1 year. They must include the location of the operations, date and time and duration of any downtime or malfunctions, and then a summary of all the monitored air quality results, including time series plots at hourly or higher time resolution. And they must include a description of any responsive actions that were taken as a result of monitoring results. For instance, if a high value was seen, what actions did they take? And they must notify us within 48 hours of any responsive actions as well. So on slide 8, what have we done to help facilitate implementation? Well, first we developed a guidance document, a little more in plain English, for the oil and gas industry and operators, going through the regulation as to what exactly is needed. We then worked very closely with the oil and gas industry to develop a monitoring plan template in Excel, which includes 37 different worksheets covering all the different requirements, and then a monthly reporting template in Excel as well, which has 28 worksheets in it. Just as a context, most of the well pads that are being developed in Colorado are anywhere from 6 to 12 wells in size. Some are as few as 1, but not many. And most wells are include horizontal drilling. And all of the wells must be specifically identified in the monitoring plans. On slide 9, going a little more into the monitoring plans themselves that have been submitted. So to date, we've received 37 different monitoring plans from a number of different operators for review and approval. Some of these are using the templates that we developed in conjunction with the industry, and some of them are using their own format that they've developed. Most of the plans are for using sensors for total VOCs, and then one is also utilizing a rotating forward-looking infrared camera, a FLIR camera. As these sensors can include multiple individual sensors within them, some are also including PM2.5. Typically, they're putting one meteorological sensor system per well pad, and these are often associated with a specific sensor unit. Many of the companies are also adding triggered canisters to get speciated data in plumes, which is really good. And a number of them are also adding passive sample tubes for 2-week exposures following EPA method 325A. And that gives them a little more of an idea of what's going on as on a chronic type of basis. Typically, they're installing anywhere from 3 to 6, or proposing anywhere from 3 to 6 sensors per well pad. And this includes a lot of the times, if not cardinal directions, it certainly includes predominant wind directions, and also the location, putting them near residences that are nearby. And in Northeast Colorado, there's quite a few places where they can be near residences. Typically, these sensors are all being put within about 150 feet from the edge of the pads. And a lot of this is to get outside of the sound walls, which can create airflow issues. Just to look at some of the sensors that have been proposed in these plans to date. They include for the PID-based total VOC sensors, Lunar Outposts Canary S, the Sensit S Pod. Both of those have triggers associated that can be purchased with them. The EarthView Bluebird, and then also the Aeroqual AQS-1, which is a little more comprehensive of a sensor system. There's also been metal oxide-based total VOC sensors that have been proposed, the WSP AirWatch, and then also the Terra Air Guardian system, as you can see here on slide 11. And then the picture on the right shows the FLIR camera setup, which is from Clean Connect. This has been proposed. On slide 12, some of the questions that have arisen that we've had come in is, first one is, does a well that commences pre-production activities prior to the rule effective date need to perform monitoring? And the answer is yes. As of May 1st, they do need to perform monitoring. So while they may not be able to get baseline monitoring, it's still not completely exempt from the rule. Second one is, what about sites that are located where there's no cellular or Wi-Fi coverage, which happens quite frequently in Colorado? And the answer is that with many of the systems, they've got onboard memory or SD cards. So those can be downloaded on a routine basis, typically at least once a week. And then the third significant question that we've had come in is what QA/QC needs to be performed. And the answer is this can vary, but with PIDs, a monthly bump test with isobutylene gas is recommended, as well as periodic or at least quarterly calibrations. So those are some of the significant questions we've had come in. Slide 13, looking at some of the thoughts and how about the future. So we've done a lot of collaboration and work with industry in a short period of time to get this implemented. Since we need at least 60 days prior to monitoring, for the companies had to submit monitoring plans, plus there's 10 days required for baseline monitoring. It really pushed it back into February when some of these plans were needed for us to be submitted to us for review and approval. Some operators have voluntarily developed plans for other sites that didn't need it, and we've reviewed those as well. Monitoring reports are now coming in and are being reviewed. We're working on a database system to store all the data for future analysis. Staffing is a concern as oil and gas development picked up a lot more quickly than we had anticipated after the recession. And we know that there's likely going to be some revisions that are going to be needed to the regulations in the future. And this is viewed as an initial step of an anticipated broader oil and gas monitoring program. So just finally, on slide 14, some contacts. Leah Martland in our planning and policy program, who's one of our regulation developers. Nancy Chick, who is reviewing and approving all of the plans and reports. Myself, and then our regulation can be found at the link that's listed below. Thank you very much for allowing me to provide this presentation to you.